Alright, everybody, welcome back to the channel for JENSHIN episode 5. We're pretty used to the format now, not gonna explain too much, but today the topic at hand is we're continuing the vein or the train of thought of burnout.
If you
And
press a leaf
it's something
between
that
dry
I've
sheets of
personally
paper,
experienced
you can make an
heavily
attractive
recently.
and handy bookmark.
Whether it's about school, it's about work, or it's about Genshin, which I made, or which I talked about extensively on the episode that I was like by myself. But today we are once again joined by my friend Audrey.
Hey, hello guys.
Great.
Unfortunately, I currently do not have storage for Genshin, so I'll only be here with you guys audioly. So like you only hear me, but you won't see me at this episode. But maybe when I get rid of some of my stuff on my iPad,
The
I'll
value of
download
knowledge
Genshin again.
cannot
Who
simply be
knows? But
quantified in
yeah.
monetary terms.
So let's talk about maybe like school and work burnout because um, most of us, if not all, hopefully, have just survived another final season. Yay! And I know some of my friends are still going through it, and I can see them very burned out. I luckily ended my semester a bit earlier than most of everybody, so I have already gone through the worst of it and sort of survived. And so I think this episode we kind of want to keep on talking about school and work, and well, it's not always sunshine and rainbows where it'd be like, "Ooh, I'm juggling everything so well." So we want to talk about when we actually like when things actually become a little bit too overwhelming, and we experience some sort of like burned out or like just fatigue in general.
Right. So, me myself is a little bit different for me because, like, in my school specifically, we don't have a lot of what you would call like typical exams where it's like, sit down, write your stuff, and leave, or like typical finals, sit down, write your stuff, and leave. It's more like, hey, write a very long essay about topic A, topic B, about research A, research B, and just like handed it at a certain time. So I would say that there's not that much pressure when it comes to schools and like schools finals and like stuff like that. But I would say that the stress from school for me doesn't really come from finals exactly. It's more about the fact that it's very taxing to, first of all, commute to school. It takes a very long time. Second of all, it always feels like there's something that I'm missing out on. Like there's something that um, I have forgotten to do, or like there's this paranoia. And the paranoia comes from the fact that in the previous years, I've sort of like burnt out in the sense like my interest in schoolwork and the stuff that we do in school. It's very sad to think about it that way because originally when I applied for university, the expectation that I had was that although, okay, maybe I don't like studying the most, but I would still be able to find something to hold on to that, like it makes me interested and motivated to continue my schoolwork. However, that hasn't been found and will probably not be found in my like upcoming last year in school. I think that the burnout mainly comes from that, and its influence is more like, okay, I'm way more motivated to do other things, such as make videos and go to work. Like the other aspects of my life have really been taking over in comparison to schoolwork. And that's, I guess that is what, in summary, like what is school burnout for me, because I just don't feel motivation to do any of the assignments. And although I still do them and hand them in, it's not like I don't feel like very happy doing them, or I don't feel like very motivated, or I'm learning something doing them. It's more of a like I think of it more of as like an inconvenience, if that makes sense. Which is probably not very healthy to do, but I can't help it. Yeah, so that's it for me.
Yeah. For me, I think, well, I struggled a lot throughout my first year because for me, I didn't know what I want to do. Like, I didn't really have a set career path. Be like, okay, I'm gonna be an engineer. I'm gonna like do like business school or something. Like, it wasn't until like fairly recently when I really started to like sit down and think about what I actually want to do. Like, I think my current job is definitely not like my career plan. It's more like, oh, I want some extra cash on the side, and it's also like something that I'm interested in. But I am just really slowly starting to realize what I wanted to do. Probably have nothing to do with my undergrad degree that I'm working towards. And I would have to squeeze out extra time to go through more courses just to get to where I want to be for my career. And so that for me is, like I have to go the extra mile to pursue like possibly a career that I want. And also, I would say even though even though we're both English majors, but we go to different schools, and for my school, I don't know why, but they love giving me exams. So I don't really understand why exams would be needed. Like why would I need it to be tested on history instead of actually English literature, but like fine, like that's their style of teaching, and since I want to earn an undergrad degree here, I must go through the hardship. And so fine, I'll do it. But it's like it's also one of the reasons why I like sort of started to doubt if I really want to pursue like an English undergrad, like not like diploma, but like yeah, like a degree.
Right.
And I'm still very much like searching like a general like idea of what I want to do. Like I would always say like what I
Add
have right
as
now is definitely not fixed, and I don't want
thank
to
you for
put myself in a fixed mold to like make sure I have
add
to
as
follow through some like plans I made years ago, which probably doesn't align with what I want anymore. But I think it's
Right.
more like a progress, like working progress. And so that's why I always have to like do more research along the way while I am like probably very stressed out with exams
keep up.
and like assignments because workloads in university is never easy, and so that's when I really hit burnout most of the time.
So
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you saying is that, like you're still trying to find yourself. You're just trying to like understand what you want to do after, you graduate and you're stepping out into society, like what do you want to do for your long-term job. But the high pressure
Mhm.
um coming from school has led to this sort of like what we would call burnout. And that in itself is something that I would say I can relate to because like during the time that I was still figuring out what I want to do and before I decided that I wanted to like try out content creation and start on that, there was a long time where it was like, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Like, since you don't like school and you don't like, like studying and stuff like that, what is the other answer? What is the actual answer that you want to pursue? Because if you were to say no to like the typical path of like doing schoolwork and like doing a job that's related to that like major, then what is the answer? There was a lot of pressure during that time, and coincidentally I was like going after the job that I have now during the same period. And so it became this thing where like it was a very high pressure system. I'm working very hard at my job, and I'm also like stressed out about school because I really don't like doing their assignments. I don't see the point in a lot of them. And so like it really got
Mhm.
to me and it really burnt me out during that time. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and I think like we also like a lot of us put a lot of pressure onto trying hard not to fail,
Right.
and we do value grades like very like heavily. Like when we fail certain exams, like we feel pretty defeated, and like we do our best and pretty much try to succeed in school, like through getting better grades, participating in more like activities and, just finding a general path for ourselves like along the way. And I
Right.
would say that this is definitely a lot more like serious than what you would get in like high school when everyone's doing set curriculum and you're just trying to get out of high school in order to get to university. And
Right.
when you're in university, you're kind of in this like fish tank with all of the other people, and then you're just like, okay, now I'm in this giant fish tank. I have so many options. What do I do? And everybody seems like so much better than me, and like I'm just this tiny, tiny little fish trying to navigate. Like that for a lot of first years can be like a lot, and so I see a lot of people going through first year just like extremely burned out, couldn't find like a way to study that works for them, and couldn't find like a major they really feel like they're called to, but
Give me
the
a moment to
deadline is right
compose
there,
myself.
and they have to get everything done, and they have to declare major, like at least for U of T, by the end of your first year. So, like, there's a very tight time limit, and you have to complete all of these things and just basically figure out a trajectory of your life within your first year. And I would
Think you
say
can get
that's
away?
like quite a lot,
Let's
to
play!
be honest.
Order
So
cut.
I had a
It's no
really bad like mental breakdown slash burnout at the very end of my first
don't
year
waste
where I like
this.
physically cannot get myself to do anything or like, even bring myself out of bed. Like I think that was probably one of the worst like burned out I've ever experienced. And like coming back from that burnt out, I would definitely say like I probably pushed myself too hard. Like I was trying to get everything done. I'm trying not to like have any bad grades because I was used to getting like A's and like B's in high school, and
Time
now
for
I'm getting
takeoff.
B plus
Are
This,
you
at
I
best.
will have order.
And like that was a
It's no
giant wake up call of like
submit?
maybe the way that I was thinking of studying wasn't the best for me,
Give up.
and like I have to
Blink.
figure out a new way to like schedule
Let me
my
impress.
uh learning plans, like figure out how to manage the course load and everything while trying to like map out a career path for myself. And like I think that was why like I led to that major burnt out. And I would say everybody get pushed over the edge differently. Like everybody experience burnt out very differently. For some it's like a lack of like purpose. They don't know what to do
Think you
and they're
can get
trying
away?
so hard to find a way
Rush forward for another
or like
time. Order
find a
cut.
purpose, but they just couldn't seem to find it. And so they kind of just like sat back and just like, I don't want to really try anymore. And for some, it's like, I'm trying so hard. I think I'm so close to actually finding what I want to do, but I just don't have the energy anymore to keep on pushing. And so they're just like, I really just have to sit down and chill, or else I'm gonna die. And for some, it's just like they just couldn't really handle that much workload all at
Mm.
once. And they're like, I really have to take a break, but my schedule doesn't allow it. And then they go into
Right.
like a
Right.
full out
Time for
burnout mode where
takeoff.
their brain goes,
There you
I
are.
have to shut down, please.
This is
Like,
order.
give me a break. And so
It's
I
no
think that's like
submit.
three main types of burnt out that I've seen in people. And at least in my school, burnout is very
Moment to
common. A
burn.
lot of people talk about it, but I don't think people
Yahoo!
realize how serious it is because we've, or at least me and my peers have joked about it so much that it just becomes a common like thing that just happens around finals and midterm seasons. But it actually is pretty serious because when you experience a burned out, you've either worked yourself towards a state where your brain shuts down
Mm-hmm.
or your body physically cannot handle it anymore and you start feeling sick, you start feeling like very like unmotivated, extreme fatigue where it kind of gets into your daily life. And I
Right.
think that's why it's really important to like know your limits and just take breaks when you need to and ask for extensions and don't be ashamed of it because once you get pushed over the edge, it's so much harder to come back or recover from a burnout than if you take intermediate breaks and slowly work towards what you want to do or what you need to finish.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think like joking about burned out are fine, but it's just so common for like everyone I know, and I think it's getting a little bit too like we don't treat it as serious as we should be, and we just think like oh it's just so common, like it's fine, you'll be okay. When in reality, it's like a lot of people actually struggle to come back from burnout. That they kind of just stay that way for a couple of months and like sit and hope and wait until the semester is over and they'll be like, oh my god, my grades have dropped like significantly. What do I do? And I think like that's why we need to talk about burnout in more like serious way
Mm.
and actually like bring more awareness to why people are getting burned out so easily and so often. Yeah.
I think that an interesting point that you came up with just now is the state before burnout. And that's something that I also have personally experienced. Like leading up to it, you still feel like everything is fine. You feel like, I just need to push a little bit more, I just need to like, I can do this, just give it a couple more weeks or days or whatever it is until your like final goal, you know what I mean? And so like it at that point, like I remember you also like ranting to me about like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that assignment, and tomorrow I have this exam, and like, I can do it. I just need to study it like all day today at the library. Like looking back now at like for me, it was more in high school than in university because university I've like eventually, like burnt out and like I just kind of not. I don't really care that much about it. Like it's not as bad as high school. In high school, I was like someone who worked genuinely really hard, and there were many points where I was like, okay, I'm feeling like this is too much. I'm not sure if I can continue like this, but I still continue it because it's like I feel like, oh, you're building your future, like you're doing this, and like it's very beneficial for your future. Like I keep using that as like my reasoning for pushing further and pushing further. And my burnout occurred more in high school than in university, I would say. And it was two different types, because like you just talked about the three different types that you see in people. And I definitely identify more with the one that's like, oh, you're just like, you just keep pushing and pushing, pushing, and then one day you realize, oh, I just don't have the motivation to even get out of bed. And so that is like something that I've experienced, and like especially with like the morning classes I sometimes have, it's just not plausible or not like feasible for me to get up and just like go there, because like it's just too taxing. And like maybe the night before I tried really hard to finish an assignment and it was like 2 or 3 a.m. when I finished, like that kind of burnout. And so I guess that's why like we decided to talk about this in this episode at length, rather than just like we've mentioned this actually in some of our previous episodes. I think that definitely is worth talking about more closely, because it's something that I feel like is often overlooked, because like especially stereotypically speaking in Asian culture, you're encouraged to just shut up and do it. And it feels like that's like the culture that kind of influenced this kind of mindset that you were talking about. Like, hey, like like my grades are so important, and like I have to sacrifice my mental and sometimes even physical health for that. I think that's kind of what push that kind of mindset in your mind, being like, oh, like previously my parents expected this out of me, or like people around me told me this was the right thing to do, when now looking back it probably wasn't the healthiest thing to do for me, because it led to this like significant amount of burnout and unhappiness that was nothing to joke about. Like it's very significant. And so that's why I just like feel like this is worth discussing because it's something that is very relatable and something that's very like close to my own lived experience. And so yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that school burnout can be very taxing. And to those of you who are like, you know, maybe presently experiencing this, I genuinely think that you should take steps, like Audrey said, to maybe ask for extensions, to maybe like do what you got to do to preserve your mental health, because at the end of the day, the letter grade to your one assignment in university isn't going to make or break your future. And yes, there are exceptions to that rule, obviously, but in general, I would say that it's not worth sacrificing your own mental or physical health on. And it's about finding, again, like we discussed before, it's about finding like a sort of balance and saying, okay, where is the like healthy middle ground for this sort of like this type of commitment to schoolwork and this type of commitment to trying to get good grades. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on this.
Let's light it up. Gotcha.
And like basically, like that's what we wanted to bring out. It's like, okay, yes, we understand like it's very stressful and like you want to do good, you know, whether it's by your own influence or by your like peers or parents' influence, you want to get those good grades. You want to feel like you're doing really well in school. And that's completely fair. I'm just saying that it's important to still keep in mind that your own health, your own well-being is still very important.